Shalom Aleichem, friends. We're going to start in just one moment. Very honored, very excited, very thankful to be back to learning together tonight. Ashreichem, Yesher Koach, everybody. Okay, those of you that are on the Zoom, if you don't mind turning on your cameras, it would be very special and helpful. Okay. Okay, we're going to do a few oldies right now. Some Rabbi Son songs. And I'll explain shortly why. Hallelujah, Hashem, Kol Goyim, Sham Bechu, Goyim, Sham Bechu, Goyim. Hallelujah, Hashem, Kol Goyim, Sham Bechu, Goyim, Sham Bechu, Goyim. King Amar, Aleinu Chasdai. King Amar, Aleinu Chasdai. Be'emes Hashem le'olam, Hallelujah. Be'emes Hashem le'olam, Hallelujah. Hallelujah, it's Hashem. Kol Goyim, Sham Bechu, Goyim, Sham Bechu, Goyim. Ay, King Amar, Aleinu Chasdai. King Amar, Aleinu Chasdai. Be'emes Hashem le'olam, Hallelujah. Be'emes Hashem le'olam, Hallelujah. Well, Baruch Hashem, you've really, those of you that we've had the privilege of learning together, you know that we sing Rabbi Son's Nigunim all the time. This is nothing new. Baruch Hashem, we've even recorded a few Rabbi Son's Nigunim. But I dafka feel extra connected to it this evening because we're on the coattails, where we just finished, actually, commemorating the second Yortzeit of one of the members of the Rabbi's Sons, someone that I actually knew a little bit, but I have a very fortunate privilege of being connected to the mishpacha of Rabbi Yechiel Eckstein, Olav Hashem, whose second Yortzeit was just now. And tonight, we're learning in his memory, in his honor. And there's another nigun I would love to sing from the Rabbi's Sons that is something that I feel, it's a song that I feel Mamash was, sometimes you feel like Nigunim were meant for you. I don't know which one of the rabbi's sons wrote this one, composed this one, but this following song from the rabbi's sons for me it says it all. On my second album with my brother, we actually recorded this nigun from Teilim. And the reason why I wanted to sing it now is because I was looking at a bunch of pictures of Rabbi Eckstein visiting people of need in Moscow, in Russia, providing them with things with basics that we kind of just take for granted because it's a given, and it's not a given by everyone. But there were a few pictures of giving basic needs to our fellow brothers and sisters, and it reminded me of what are our basic needs. We perhaps maybe have all those things on a physical, materialistic level. But the Russian Yidden, the Ukrainian Yidden, they know how to cry. And David HaMelech says, Hai sali dimasi lechem yomam v'layla be'emor elai kol ayom ayeh elokecha. That my tears were my sustenance, were my bread and water, while I was asking, Ribbono Shel Olam, where are you? So, as much as, you might be saying, Shlomo, it's beginning to prepare for Purim Shir, what's going on with you, right? But the MS is that if you really know the depth of Purim, you know that it's the deepest privilege in the world. Deepest privilege in the world, if you know how to cry. And it actually fills the neshama with simcha, if it knows how to cry for the right reasons. If it knows how to be broken for the right reasons. And on Purim, there's a chance to go and to connect to that energy. So this is an old rabbi's son's nigun. Hai salidi masi lechem yomam v'layla. Hai salidi masi lechem yomam v'layla. Hai salidi masi. Hai salidi masi lechem yomam v'layla. Hai salidi masi lechem yomam v'layla. Hai salidi masi be'morelai kol hayom be'morelai kol hayom ayeh elokecha ayeh elokecha ayeh elokecha. Hai salidi masi lechem yomam v'layla. Hai salidi masi lechem yomam v'layla. Hai salidi masi. Da 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 da. Hai salidi masi lechem yomam balayla. Hai salidi masi lechem yomam balayla. Hai salidi masi במוני לי כל היום, במוני לי כל היום, איה אלוקיך, Perhaps we'll end off with one more oldie but goodie from back then. So again, all the learning tonight that we're going to be doing as we begin our Purim prep is in memory of Rabbi Eckstein. And it is such a zchut to be alive right now in this time, in this world. And I'm sure you all feel the same, that this whole world is absolutely meshuggah, more than ever, which means that we're perfectly in a great spot, ready for Purim. I've shared with you every year that I have a good friend who basically, he lives in Purim all year long. No, he's not drunk all year long, but what he does is that he has Purim countdown, which begins the day after Purim. When he was a Rebbe in yeshiva, he would give a clap on the table. I was there one time, and it was like Cheshvan time, like November. And he says, out loud, like so strong, Chevra, tonight's night Seder, Shachris at 8:30, and it is 175 days till Purim. And he said it so seriously. And everyone, that's just how they lived. They lived every single day, like you have Sriya Omer, right? So not just like Sriya Omer, here it literally was, this concept of Sfiras Purim. There was a Purim countdown. Where were we last year, Purim? Where are we today? Where are we this year? You know what? I'm done with trying to remember where I was last year and where we are this year. I don't care anymore. I know, hopefully, where I am today. And that's all I really, really have. I don't have that much more than that. I know basically more or less where I am today. And honestly, it seems to me like that's enough. That's enough for right now. So having said all that, what I want to do is to jump into the heart of preparing for Purim. A few days ago, I was walking down the street in Yerushalayim, Yer Kodesh, and I jumped into the Breslov bookstore. And of course, I get very excited whenever I go there. And this time, as you all know, Baruch Hashem, I was behind the counter, and the guy behind the counter saw me. He said, "How are you, Shlomo?" And I said, "I'm amazing. I just had a son, and his name is Nachman." And the guy we were starting to dance inside the Breslov bookstore. It was so special. It was so precious. And I picked up a number of things in there. And one of the things is a tiny booklet that I saw on the side over there called Bayam Darkecha, a little kuntras, Bayam Darkecha. Has no name. I did a little bit of research and I realized it's teachings based on teachings of Rabbi Yechiel Morgenstern, big tzaddik, tremendously deep Rebbe in Yerushalayim. And this happens to me sometimes, and it's not stam that as a preparation for Purim, it's a footnote that I want to learn with you tonight. It's only a footnote, basically. One pashut footnote that we're going to see in just a few minutes. And if we chop this footnote, Purim is all about secrets, and the Megillah is so filled with remazim, drash, sod. There's so many layers, and and God's name isn't mentioned, but then you have the word Hamelech. When Hamelech's word is, when it's written Hamelech without a Chashverosh, tzaddikim say that's alluding to Hashem. If it's Hamelech with the Chashverosh, Bichlal, Esther's name was Hadassah. What's going on? Who's her uncle? Was Mordechai uncle, cousin? It's all secrets upon secrets. But then sometimes you just say, okay, let me just get back to the pshat of the pshat. And when we remember the pshat of the story of Purim, I feel that then we can sink in deeper. So tonight begins our 2-week prep. We're going to be having a bunch of shiurim in the next 2 weeks, please God. I'll be sending out little snippets, little nuggets here and there from all over the place. We also have a ton of archived shiurim from recent years. Us Chevra, our Chabura, and the B'nai Machshava Chabura, we had some of the most incredible learnings on Purim from Rav Yaakov Meir Shechter, from Rav Erez Moshe Doron, from Rav Kluger, to name some of the tzaddikim that we've learned from, and we're going to be adding Bezrat Hashem a bunch as well. Well, if we go back to the pshat of the story of Purim is more or less illustrated within the following pasuk, and I want you to visualize this pasuk. I'm going to sing it the way that we sing it on Simchas Torah, because really we say it every Shabbos morning in Nusach Sfard. I don't think Nusach Ashkenaz says it, but this is how we say it in Simchas Torah night. We say, Ata Horei Saladas Ki Hashem Hu Elokim Ein Od Milvado. You could already feel the kishkas, right? What is that excitement? Simchas Torah, I'm about to dance the Torah. It's the candies, the tying of the talis, whatever your Indian is in Simchas Torah. And then you continue. Le'el se niflos dalos levado ki le'olam chasdo. As a Kohen, I always get Kohanecha yilbeshu tzedek v'chasidecha yeraneinu. Go back to the first pasuk. Ata horeta ladat. You showed our knowledge. I'm getting sidetracked because earlier today I had the privilege of doing a whole shiur for a new chabura of our students in China. I'm not kidding. It was the first time I ever did this. And the woman that's leading the chabura in our Chinese chabura, her name is Da'at. Mamish. So that's why it's a little bit sticking out right now. Ata horeta ladat. You showed us through our da'at that what? Ki Hashem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei Hu Elokim. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is the Elokim. Tzaddikim was saying, what does that mean? You're showing me that God is God? That Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is the Elokim? What's the difference between the two? Listen very closely. And it's something we all know. Oh, Ribono Shalom, we just want a total revelation, right? We don't want the concealment anymore. We know that the word Elokim is the same gematria as the word Hateva, the nature. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is the way that God, so to speak, manifests beyond nature, and Elokim is through the nature. In a nutshell. And I'm dafka leaving this in a nutshell because it's not what I want to get to tonight. When a God has, we have moments in our life where the God that appears through the realm that's beyond nature is as clear as he is when it's through nature. When that happens, we have what's called a yichud, the unification. We have clarity. We have bitachon. We don't need to work too hard on emunah because that which is, so to speak, concealed from us is completely not concealed from us. The Kabbalists explain that the miracle of Purim was so within nature that what ended up happening was that Elokim was Yud-Kei Vav-Kei and Yud-Kei Vav-Kei was Elokim. It was clear that this was Yad Hashem. This was the hand of God. And when a person lives with the hand of God, when a person lives with this concept of the Ribono Shel Olam is running the show, every single aspect of it is him. Like the famous quote of the Baal Shem Tov, God is either everything or he's nothing. Right? God is either everything or he's nothing. Meaning, the way we relate to God is either that he's everything or that he's nothing. So when that's clear to me, like became clear to me as a result of the story of Purim, you know what I can do? I can breathe. I can let go of all my anxieties. I could let go of my stress. I could let go of my worries. I don't need to understand everything. The result of Purim wasn't that we understood everything, but it was that there was a clarity that everything is under control, which is what we want. We don't really want to understand everything. I always say that I have a good friend who, thank God, his wife is doing better, but she was suffering a few years ago from the Yana Machala, from the illness of all illnesses that we want to send healing to everyone tonight. And he was staying up all night for hours and hours and hours researching the symptoms, exactly what she was going through and why she was going through what she was going through. It's a certain type of illness. So when I came over to speak with him one day, and he was sharing with me how he's just so, and he's an akshan, he's so persistent, so stubborn, he has to crack this code to understand why this is happening to her. I said to him, bro, and let's say you understand why this is happening to her. Is this going to change the way you feel? Is it going to take away your pain? More importantly, her pain? If you understand, we don't really care to understand. What we care to know, what we care to feel is some kind of a shalva, some kind of what we just want to know. I don't need to understand. But the way that you work and the way that you perform Ribono Shel Olam within nature, beyond nature, Ata areta adat ki Hashem hu Elokim. Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Rachamim hu Elokim is the din, and the din is the Rachamim. There is no difference. There is no difference. And on Purim, the miracles seem to be fully through nature. But what we're trying to say is that even though that miracle was so fully within nature, and it didn't involve splitting of seas or 10 plagues or fire on the mountain, Mount Sinai style, it actually caused within each Jew to be even more blown away than if there would be beyond these worldly miracles. And I think that you and I, in our heart of hearts, even though it's hard to admit this, that's really what we want. That's really what we want. This is the hakara. This is the recognition that we saw. So in the middle of this it's actually an intro to the ma'amar that I mentioned before. What we're going to see right now, it's just a few lines, and it's just to really get us in gear, get us in a good place as we begin our active journey towards wiping out Amalek, towards fulfilling the mitzvahs on Purim, which, this year, although it hasn't been announced yet, I'm sure this year will have its restrictions. Actually, I'm not sure about anything, but I'm sure that if we stay in the realm of nature, it'll have its restrictions. But I'm inviting you all just for mamish, like 5-10 minutes, to just breathe in the next footnote. You'll see it in front of your on your screen right now. I want to thank my assistant Donna for presenting this. Look at this. וכל זמן שהמן הרשע חשב שהוא פועל ועושה ותכנן תוכניות בכל מעשיו, השם יתברך הראה לו שהכל פעל הפוך, והכל פעל בסוף רק כרצון השם יתברך. The story of Purim shows us a lot of different things. One of the aspects that the story of Purim shows us, and this is a very important piece, if not the most important piece, is that, I don't know how you say it in Yiddish, but that, man plans and God laughs. So it's even better when like a Rasha plans and God and righteous people laugh. Haman HaRasha had all these different plans. as to what's going to be. And maybe now the evil forces have seen that such fear has been striking within the people of humanity this year because of COVID. And it has all these plans saying, wow, there's enough fear inside of them. Now we could continue to mess up the world. But at the end, just like the story of Haman, the exact opposite of all that happened. At the end, whatever ended up happening was just Kirtzon Hashem Yitbarach. Ki lema'aseh, third line. Kol ma'asav shel Haman pa'alu hafuch mima shu tichnen. Look at every single thing that Haman prepared, that Haman tried to do, the exact opposite. Like when we, say v'nahafochu, and that tables were turned, we're not just talking about the fact that Jews were supposed to die and then they didn't, and then they weren't killed. Every aspect of the whole story of Purim was v'nahafochu. Lemashal, harigat Vashti hevia et Esther. Achashverosh killed Vashti, but what did that create the space for? For Esther coming into the picture. Ha'atza'ah shel hakavod shel kacha ye'aseh hepila oto bebizayon. Just like Haman said, kacha ye'aseh la'ish asher hamelech hafetz beikaro. Like this will be done to a person that the king desires in his glory. That ended up being who? Not Haman. That ended up being Mordechai, putting Haman to shame. The decision to kill Yidden really ended up being that the Amalekites were killed. The Gezerah, the decree that was intended to wipe out the people of God, essentially caused the people of God to not only not be wiped out, but to be more alive than ever, and to recommit to accepting of the Torah with so much love. The exact opposite of what the plan was. וכמו כן, כל תכלית מטרתו שהייתה למנוע את בית המקדש. What Haman was essentially trying to do was to prevent the second Beis HaMikdash from ever being rebuilt. כמו שכתב האריזל, and the Arizal, the holy Kabbalist, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, explains this in great depth, how all of the Megillah, the story of the Megillah, the story of Haman and Achashverosh, was essentially an attempt to cause Yidden to forget that they ever had a Beis HaMikdash, that there ever will be a Beis HaMikdash. What ended up happening? בסופו של דבר, דריווש, בנה של אסתר, בנה אותו. The story is that a bunch of Jews went back to Israel after the story of Purim and rebuilt the second Beis HaMikdash. The son of Esther did this. Not the majority, but definitely a nice representation. As you know, the story of Esther takes place between the first Beis HaMikdash and the second Beis HaMikdash. So that's when it comes to an evil man's plot and an evil man's thoughts and plannings. Hashem Yisbarach flipped it all within the framework of nature, and every aspect of the story of Purim was flipped over. But he continues and he says, "V'chen b'tzad ha'kedusha, Mordechai asa davar she'al pi teva haya mesukan." Mordechai did something that, according to nature, was very dangerous. What did he do? He refused to bow down to Haman. He chis et Haman. He angered Haman. Aval lemaaseh mizeh yatsa nes Purim. But if you think about it, the fact that he enraged Haman, that was the roots for the story. That was the sprouting of the beginning of the story of the future redemption of the Jews from Persia. Ukmo chen, af she'avru ma she'avru. We went through what we went through. V'kitreg alehem Satan, and the Satan was prosecuting us. V'kvar nigzar alehem ma she'nigzar. What was decreed upon us was already decreed. Everything seemed absolutely lost. Nonetheless, Mordechai HaTzadik yada she'akol biyad Hashem yitbarach. Beruchnius u'begashmius. Mordechai is known as an Ish Yehudi, Haya b'Shushan Abira, a Jewish man. The sages are telling us that a Jewish man is not a reference here, someone that's born Jewish. A Jewish man who's truly a Jewish individual is someone who's clear to them that everything, both spiritually and materialistic, everything is in the hands of Hashem. Like the amount of hours that you're going to be sleeping tonight is in the hands of God. The amount of food you'll be able to bring home to your family by the end of the week is also in the hands of God. And the spiritual closeness which you might feel is also in the hands of God. So he says over here, third line from the bottom, he did not despair, even though it says that the gzera, the decree to wipe out Jews, was already inscribed with Tabat HaMelech, with the king's ring, right? That's the story of Esther showing us even when things are la'achar gzar din, things are already signed and sealed, an ish Yehudi, that means nothing to him. It doesn't play anything, doesn't play any role in our basic understanding, on a very basic level, of what God is capable of doing. Elahu hitpalel v'za'ak, rather Mordechai Yehudi was screaming in the streets, and he was able to awaken the compassion and mercy of God in a certain manner. Hashem yitbarach richem alamo, and God had rachmanis on us. The Adrabah. On the contrary, akol ne'afach letovah, everything was switched over for the good. And we received the Torah, we received our relationship with God from love. Okay, we can go out of the text right now. Dearest friends, why was it so important for us right now to learn any of this? Why was it? We know all this, right? But if we really knew all this on a Mordechai Yehudi level, every story of our life that seems that it's like the first few chapters of Purim can end up being like the last few chapters of Purim. Any of them. And each of us have our own parshas in our life where we say, look, this is my lot. This is what was decreed. I can see that in my own book, in Shemaim, this was decreed, signed, and sealed. It's done. It's not my chelik to have this. I once spoke to a girl, she was, 21 or 22. Very troubled, going through a lot. She said to me, look, I already accept that I'm not supposed to be with my soulmate in this world. Well, what kind of belief in God is this? You already accept you're not supposed to be with your soulmate in this world? What parak of the Megillah are you in? Your Megillah Bichlal, it's not even a Megillah. I don't know what you're talking about. But let me ask you, friends, do you feel that it was already decreed that we won't see the redemption of the world and of Am Yisrael? Do you accept that? There are certain people that just don't accept that. Yivchinas Mordechai Yehudi. And they will scream, and they will daven. And the whole story of Purim, the simplicity of there was a decree, a Jew didn't accept the decree, he prayed, he cried, he brought God's mercy down, tables were turned, l'chaim. That's Purim. Yes, it's deep. Of course, there's so many more elements to it. But the basic of Purim is believing in tefillah. You know, friends, there's a very simple halacha that says that if there's a blemish in the korban, in our sacrifice that we brought into the holy temple, on the holy altar, if there was a blemish in it, it was not allowed to be sacrificed. You couldn't put it on the altar. And we know that today we don't have sacrifices. But what do we have instead of sacrifices? We have davening. We have prayer. But you know what kind of a prayer we can't put on the altar? A prayer that has a blemish. You know what's a prayer that has a blemish? A prayer that you feel is finite. A prayer that You say, oh, in a fairy tale world, this would be beautiful. But really, come on, I'm not going to go crazy. That's a blemish. That's mamash a pagam. It's a pagam of all pagamim in our korban. People that have done big things in this world, the real ones that have done big things, they had to believe in their korban. They had to really believe in what they were doing. What other people thought or didn't think about them was always secondary. Their thoughts about what does the Ribono Shel Olam, why did he send me into this world? That came first. Can you imagine if Mordechai HaYehudi would have thought about the Jewish establishment's response to him dissing Haman? I have to share with you, friends, one of the most depressing Shabbases I ever had in my life. And I'm going to be very careful not to mention any names, but it was spooky. It was right around now. And I was scholar in residence in a certain community in the United States. Let's leave it at that. And that Shabbos, the rabbi got up to speak, and he spoke all about how it was the week that Bibi Netanyahu went to Congress and spoke about the Iran nuclear deal. Everyone remembers, say what you want to say about him. That was a Yid that got up and said, listen, this is not happening. We're not going to have this. And the whole speech was about, we don't push the buttons of our friends, even if sometimes we have chilukei deot. It was an amazing, I couldn't believe it. I was visiting Eretz Yisrael, and the whole speech was about how we learn from the story of Esther, how a Jew has to always keep peaceful ties with everyone, no matter what, because look how he kept peaceful ties with Achashverosh. Can you imagine if Mordechai HaYehudi, if that's the Torah he lived by? No one would have cried. We don't know if any Rahmanas would have come down from Shemaim, and you know the rest of the story. The point is, dearest friends, yes, Purim has realms deep Torahs on it, and it goes so deep, it's unbelievable. But the bottom line of the whole thing is, in Purim we realized Ki Hashem Hu Elokim, this beautiful, peaceful, calming reality. That din is rachamim, rachamim is din, nature is beyond nature is nature. And what brought about it? A Jew's refusal to accept that bad things should happen to Jewish people. That's the beginning of our learning for Purim. From here, Bezrat Hashem, we'll go deeper and deeper. Sing one more nigun. And we're gonna get, it's not just that we're gonna get through this, we're gonna let Purim get through us this year. It'll be the deepest Purim we ever had. I'm really psyched. I'm really excited. And most of all, I'm really not glued. It doesn't have to be the way I think it has to be. Clearly, it hasn't been the way I thought it has to be. Nothing has been the way we thought it has to be. But with friends like you, I think we can get through this together and reach that place of Bezrat Hashem, Ata Hareto Adat Ki Hashem Hu Elokim En Od Milvado. I think we're going to get there. I think that we're going to get there much sooner than we thought we were, at least in the past. I would like, if it's okay with you, to just end off with one more song from the Rabbi's Sons. And if you don't know them, you should have to check them out. You have to find their nigunim. It's one of the best nigunim that I've ever heard. And this is one that we definitely have sung a lot in our home. Kavel Hashem chazak veyametz libecha. Kavel Hashem. Kavel Hashem chazak veyametz libecha. Kavel Hashem. קרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקרב אל השם, קרב אל השם, חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקרב אל השם. שבוע טוב everyone, בשורות טובות. A big hug from Efrat.